Hello and welcome back to the Jim, Burns and Dave podcast. It's the last one of the year and it's just me and Jim, I'm afraid. It's the best two because Steve has gone home for Christmas.
It is the last one of the year and also by far the quietest it fucking looks like. I'm drinking a cup of tea and nobody's fucking commenting on it. Nobody's got something to say about people drinking hot drinks. As if that's weird.
He's such a shy house. He's out anyway. We're recruiting. We're going to put him in brackets to start at the beginning of the year, and then we're looking for anyone else.
If anyone else fancies being an associate producer, get in touch.
All you got to do is like shout and talk about watches.
Yeah. You've got to know first of all what an associate producer is, which is basically whatever you say it is. It's a job description that changes depending on the moment, but it's mostly, as Dave says, phoning people and screaming at them until things get done.
That sounds like you. Drop a CV
exactly.
in.
Basically, I mean, every production company needs a Malcolm Tucker, apparently. So.
But we do have some actually exciting news, and for a change, it's exciting news that we can and will tell you about. In fact, we're going to force it down your faces, down your earlobes. And what is that, Jim? What have we been doing?
It is that we have, along with our friends at 7 Digital, taken over production of the gaming show on Radio 1's visual radio section on iPlayer.
Yeah, so on December 27th, you are going to be able to click away and see a Jim Burns Dave as a special gun, a production company alongside 7 Digital, making Julia Hardy do some wonderful talking, which she's excellent at. And we have some great interviews, don't we, Jim?
We do have some amazing interviews. There's a particularly amazing one from Dan Hay, the creative director of Far Cry 5, about what inspired the direction and tone of Far Cry 5. Not to give anything away, but I don't know about you, Dave, but it really surprised me what the answer he gave to that question.
Yeah, it is really interesting.
I mean, I'm not going to... People will understand when they watch it, but it is almost like halfway through the gaming show, we cut to like a Metal Gear Solid cutscene about the Cold War. So yeah, it's really interesting stuff. We've got interviews featuring various people from our past as well, funnily enough. So, you know, about things like Last of Us 2, Red Dead Redemption 2. So we round up the year, the amazing stuff that's happened in 2017, and then look forward to 2018. So it's called The Gaming Show, New Year, New Games. Search for that on iPlayer or hit red button on the 27th of December. And you will be the envy of your friends because you will know that you are in fact watching a Jim Burns and Dave joint, except a secret one that only you know about.
Trojan horse and get. It's probably not as lively as your video gamer ones that you did back in the day, Jim. I imagine
it's not going to be the same tonally as the video gamer year in reviews, where you know, basically it was just an excuse for Burns to yet again say his favourite game of the year was fucking Kane and Lynch 2. There was one point I was like, we should really bring up Kane and Lynch 2 in this show somehow, and it's like, it's not the right audience, Jim, for God's sake.
Just force it in. December 27th, get it watched. New Year, new games. On
get
the BBC
it watched
iPlayer
and get it punted to your mates as well.
And get your friends watching it. Yeah. But on that point, Jim, what's your favourite video game of the year? My
favourite video game of the year... Oh, see, it's weird for me when because I play so many of them, and that's not a humble brag, or I mean, it's not a brag at all. It's sad as fuck. But I play so many of them because there's very little else going on in my life, and I guess if it had to decide at the end of every quarter, that would be easier. Well,
let's do a rundown of some of them. So you loved Assassin's Creed, right?
I loved Assassin's Creed. Yeah, I think on balance, that's probably my favourite one of the year. Yeah, I love how they, how it reinvented Assassin's Creed and took a lot of inspiration from The Witcher 3. If you're going to pilfer anything as a template for a big, open world adventure that you want to fill with side quests and shit
Witcher
like that.
3 is a pretty good one to emulate, right?
Witcher 3 is, the one to emulate. I really enjoyed Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. People talk about its portrayal of mental health and things like that. I've heard mixed things on that. Generally, it's very positive, and I found it very positive. It's how it handled those issues of, you know, mental health, psychosis, and not just that, but also dealing with, you know, abusive relationships and things like that. I think it's a really, really smart game, and a really incredible looking game as well. I don't think it got enough praise for quite how much of a technical kind of achievement it was, because it looked, I mean, I played it on a standard a standard PS4, and it still looked like, I mean, there were bits of it that were just indistinguishable. They were photorealistic almost, and even though like it was, you know, incredible things happening, the art direction was just pristine throughout. Really, really high quality product, you know. I mean, aside from the fact that it was like a really well-designed game, really well-designed kind of environmental puzzles and stuff, you just, you know, when you play something or watch something or whatever, and you can just feel the craftsmanship coming off it like an aura, you know, like when you watch fucking Mad Men or something, like you just like, half of the joy of watching shows like that is just,
production values.
The production values, you know, especially like, you know, when you're in the kind of the field of work that we are, you just kind of, you know, in awe how every cog of this is running at full capacity, you know, and like everyone involved in this is on their A game. This is incredible. So yeah, Hellblade felt like that for me. So I think, yeah, those two are probably my favourites, and I can barely remember anything else I played.
I would say mine is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah?
I fucking loved that game, basically. And again, I thought the way it was designed was brilliant. The mechanics of the gameplay, the like a whole world that you're exploring, the character. That was my favourite game. Obviously, we did some stuff on Resi 7, you know, to clear that up front. You know, but that was an interesting one.
You know, people have asked me about Resi 7 in terms of like how to get past certain bits, because they know that I worked on it and think I know stuff about it. I genuinely don't, because I'm too scared to play it.
I want to play The Evil Within 2, actually. I've not played that. That's got good reviews this year.
Yeah.
But I do love horror. You're not a fan of it, are you, Jim?
See, I like it, but it does actually, it shits me up so much. The idea of it shits me up probably more than horror itself does. But I just can't. It takes a lot for me to sit down and play a horror game. And then I can usually only manage 15 minutes.
Did you play Until Dawn?
I did play Until Dawn. I never completed it, but I played it for a while on a live stream way back when. But that was different, because that was less about, and as Burns kind of wrote in an op-ed, the genius of that game was that you were playing like the director.
The director, yeah.
There was no peril for you, the player.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So that felt less like a horror, more like a Telltale game. You know, I haven't said that. A lot of Telltale games are quite intense. So I mean,
I loved The Walking Dead.
Yeah. It's probably a horror film simulator rather than a horror game, I guess.
I've just got Amnesia Collection on because it was one of the downloads you could get with PS Pro. I've not with PlayStation Plus. Have you played those?
The Amnesia games?
Yeah.
I downloaded the same thing at the same time for the same reason. I'll never play them. But I've heard good things about Amnesia, actually, funnily enough. Yeah, I'm not really that into the whole Halloween games and stuff, but like, you know, I'm interested enough to like download them and sometimes even buy them, but very rarely actually boot them up.
Well, there you go. Obviously, you went and bought a Switch this year, Jim.
I did buy a Switch.
So,
oh shit!
Zelda,
I forgot to mention
Breath
any
of
of
the
that.
Wild.
Fucking hell, Jesus!
Surely that is.
I
is
could
up
have
there.
sworn on a stack of Bibles that's a fucking odd phrase for me to use, but I'll go with it.
Atheist Jim would swear on a stack of Bibles.
What? I'll swear on fucking a stack of Douglas Adams novels. I don't know. No, the Switch has been amazing, actually. I completely, even though I just forgot about it when asked specifically about it. No, the Switch has been amazing. And like, one of the most wonderful kind of things is how much of a community has been engendered around the Switch, about how like Switch owners are really excited about everything that comes out for it. By the middle of the year, it became really clear that actually the Switch was kind of becoming the home of indies, you know. And I've seen, you know, I know a few indie developers on Twitter who were talking about this, how it was like, well, you know, for a long time it was like, well, Steam's obviously the place to go to sell your game as an indie, and Steam's become so saturated with garbage and it's very difficult to be visible. But actually, the Switch is kind of in this honeymoon period where it's like the people who have one, because it's a new console, are still excited every time something new comes out for it. But that means a lot of really interesting games that you wouldn't otherwise hear of because they wouldn't be able to cut through the noise have been finding a home on the Switch. So it's become like this amazing...
So such as what? So obviously we talk about Zelda and Mario is obviously Odyssey, and Mario Kart as well are obviously massive smash hits, but...
I don't really think there's been any kind of indie exclusives, but like all the indies have been making their way to the Switch, and it's become kind of the best place to play them. Like Stardew Valley, for example, made its way to the Switch and got almost as much attention as it did when it was first launched, which was incredible because people who had already played it were like, this is the best place to play it. This is the best platform to play it on, which is incredible to think that like a lot of these games seem at home on a platform that didn't exist when they were conceived of. But I think that's the genius of the Switch's design, that every game is a handheld, right? So stuff like Golf Story, which I kind of in my head, it came out at around the same time as Stardew Valley, so in my head it's very similar as pixel art style. I mean, it's completely fucking different, but it's like, you know, this wonderful daft Australian RPG about a guy playing golf and just going around doing golf stuff.
Is this the one Burns is always fucking chirping on about?
No, he's always going on about the fucking Neo Geo golf game, and he only goes on about that typically for Burns because it's worth a lot of money if you've got the original cartridge. So this is him talking about a video game as if it's a Rolex, essentially.
Okay, so file that along Twatty Watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking £500 haircuts and all that crap.
Yeah, exactly. But there's loads of stuff. There's like old stuff like Super Meat Boy as well. It's just become like... Because it's got that thing where everything can be played on the bus, anything can be played in bed. So if you're talking like from fucking like blockbuster shit like Skyrim right down to stuff like Stardew Valley.
Do you play Skyrim on the Switch?
I don't know.
Because that feels like a game that, well, obviously you can put the Switch in and play it on your TV, but that feels like one you want more of, you know, those massive immersive worlds.
I think, I think with Skyrim, because I got a PlayStation Pro as well and upgraded to 4K and all that stuff this year. And I kind of, this is such a sad fucking thing to come out with, but I kind of had a dilemma about what to get Skyrim on. Because obviously I fucking played Skyrim to death anyway. And I was like, well, I either have it handheld or I have it in 4K. And I went with the 4K. Well, I went with the 4K because, like, you know, because of the spectacle of it. So I got the PlayStation version, and it was significantly cheaper as well. But yeah, you need to have a reason to replay a game like that, I think. So it's either that like, oh, it's now in 4K and it looks amazing, and you've got a bigger telly to play it on, so it's more immersive and shit like that, or it's handheld and you can now play it on the fucking train. And like, I did wonder if I'd maybe kind of kicked myself, because I was like, I can easily lose 6 hours in Skyrim, and you know, I'm often spending 6 hours on the train going up to the northeast of Scotland, proper Scotland, like fucking deep Scotland.
Not only this Edinburgh shite,
bits of Scotland that people haven't heard of, you know. Fucking Edinburgh is like mainstream Scotland. I'm talking about the fucking, like, you know, the kind of Scotland that people were in the 80s, you know. It's like Edinburgh and Glasgow are like different class and his and hers, but like Angus and Hillside, they're like early pulp, you know.
It's a beautiful analogy, Jim.
They're like, that's like razzmatazz and all that shit.
There's no Mon the Hoops over there.
Don't even know what I'm talking about.
Well, we started on best games of the year, and we've ended up in the northeast of Scotland.
We've ended up talking about Pulp and Skyrim, which is obviously my fucking... I mean, you know, I'm on the podcast when that happened.
Call of Duty World War II as well.
I haven't played it. Oh, I'll tell you what, though, I did the fucking hell. What was that? I was like, it's like a fucking Carry On film. I tell you what, I did get into Call of Duty this year. I got Modern Warfare Remastered in a sale along with Infinite Warfare, which I only played them for the campaigns. I'm not interested in multiplayer. I'm very bad at video games. I'm very bad as soon as I'm in a situation where there's other people involved, I get even worse.
Is this why you started dressing in combo pants and got those dog tags? Is this because of COD?
Yeah, totally. It's why I've all of a sudden become very right wing. But no, played Infinite Warfare is like Call of Duty Battlestar Galactica. It's fucking mad. You probably like it, actually.
So there's a Battlestar Galactica game out, isn't there?
Yeah, it looks
It's a strategy one, I think.
Yeah, it looks absolute dog shit, though.
How dare you. Wolfenstein 2, obviously that was
Wolfie 2 was good, yeah.
So, right, I'm going to start playing these. Do I buy what? The New Order first, and then the spin-off one, what's that called?
The Old Blood.
The Old Blood. And then Wolfenstein 2, Wolfensteiner.
Burns...
Are any of them as good as Wolfenstein 3D?
Yes. Burns likes to say that you can play Wolfenstein 2 without playing the first two. And he's talking shit.
Well, they're like £4 at the minute on the sale just before Christmas.
Pick them up. They're $3.99 each. They won't be forever. They've been $3.99 for a while now on the store, and they're going to go back up soon. So, like, pick them up. It's the best £8 you'll ever spend on a shooter because they're fucking brilliant. They're really tight to play. They run it, and this really matters with shooters. But you know, I'm not usually a fucking frame rate dickhead. But they run at 60 FPS. The gunplay feels really nice. It feels really tight. It's actually like the actual joy of shooting a gun.
Do you get straight into it? I know you don't necessarily on the second one, but on the New Order, are you straight into the action? Because I was desperate for one of those the other day, and I was going through my games, and I was like, oh, it's so much talk scenes.
I'm trying to think how the New Order starts. I think it's slightly... well, actually, no. No, the opening... And I remember now. The opening to New Order is you're not shooting straight away, but you are on like a B-52 bomber plane that is like a fleet of them heading towards...
That's Germans.
Heading towards, a giant castle facility, which isn't Wolfenstein, funnily enough. I don't think Castle Wolfenstein actually appears in either Wolfenstein or Wolfenstein 2.
The very early ones were like 2D top-down, like stealth games.
No.
I thought they were.
No.
And then they changed to first-person action.
No.
I'm pretty sure.
Nah.
I think I'm outdoing Jim Trinker here.
No, there was something, I'm pretty sure there was something called Castle Wolfenstein that it was based on. As in, like, it gave id Software the idea, but the series Wolfenstein 3D has always been a first-person shooter.
Oh yeah, from that series, yeah.
But
that was about Castle Wolfenstein, yeah.
Like the New Order, he starts off. You're on a B-52 fucking bomber. There's 2 fucking million of them in the air, and they're all crashing into each other, and yours is blowing up, and you have to fucking, like, you know, this massive kind of actions. It does start off where you fucking jump in between planes and fucking shooting them down and crashing, and then so it's like you do get into it fairly quickly.
I'm gonna get it as soon as you walk out of here.
Spend the £8. Play the fucking... Listen, I've got Wolfie 2 on disc as well, so you can just fucking play that one. So, you know, you can play the whole fucking...
Have you got Hellblade on disc, or did you download it from...
Downloaded it.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Selfish Jim.
Sorry.
For that, I'm having the Switch for Christmas. You can sit and read a book on the train, Jim, and think about what you've done.
Well, this is it. I don't know what I'm going to do in the train, but obviously, you know, you got your Zelda and your Mario. Fucking 2017 has been the fucking best year in gaming since like 2007. Like, it's been amazing. Just constant fucking... It's been a while since we've had that. I've not seen it since like when the 360 was in its heyday, that we've had like every fucking month there's been at least like 2 or 3 absolute fucking bangers that come out, to the point where like I still haven't played Prey. I still haven't played Dishonored 2. There's so many I haven't fucking... And usually, at least for the past few years, certainly since 2013, by the end of the year, I had played everything that had come out. So,
have you completed FIFA 18 yet, Jim? I know you bloody love those games.
No, it's been a fucking dynamite year. It's been this kind of generation really coming into its own. I mean, it already got good. It got good in the Witcher 3 year. It was like 2014. It got like 2014, it was a year old, and then the generation kicked off properly, and then it was. But this is the point where it's like, Jesus, this is incredible what's happening at the moment. And the consoles have had a new lease of life with the Pro versions and the One X and stuff, and I think that's probably going to keep things going for whatever iteration of the console you have. It's probably going to keep the momentum going for another year or two before we start seeing. People think we're going to get PlayStation 5 in 2019. I think it will be announced in 2019. I don't think it'll come out in 2019 because they only released the Pro last year. The One X only just came out this year, so I don't think the next gen is going to kick off so soon.
Is it going to continue down the hardware road though?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll adopt an iPad model. When we kind of already have anyway, there'll be iterative updates. I think what will happen is eventually, like, the PS5 will come out and it will be directly battle compatible with all the PS Pro stuff and everything. And things will have, like, something will come out and it will be like, for a while, I reckon you will have stuff coming out that's PS5 enhanced, but you can still play it on a PS4. But there will also be stuff that, like, stops supporting the PS4 and stuff. I think you'll have, like, more of a kind of an app store, Apple smart device kind of economy where things are on a constant
but can I pick up my PlayStation 5 like I can my Switch?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to become like a standard form factor for things. I think that's going to stay very uniquely Nintendo. Because as successful as the Switch has been for Nintendo, I think Sony and Microsoft know what their strengths are now. And Sony must know that their strength is not in handheld. They've tried twice. They fucked it twice. Microsoft, their strength is in not trying to be like twatty and gimmicky and have all these fucking features that nobody uses. And they try to become like the home hub. They try to become the center of like your home entertainment system rather than a fucking good games machine. And I think they've now realized that actually their strength was in being the best console to develop for, the best console to run things on, like the best hardware, and Sony kind of know that their strength is maybe a bit more of an all-rounder. Their kind of demographic is similar to 360, is similar to the Xbox, but they've got more of an aspirational kind of image, I guess. I think all the three kind of platform holders are so. What they are good at and what people go to them for is getting so distinct now that I think they're going to stop kind of constantly ripping each other off, and they're actually going to go off in different directions. So I don't think we're going to see like the PlayStation Switch, I don't think we're going to see the Xbox with a handheld unit. I think because Burns is convinced that everyone's going to do it, and I think he's actually talking shit as usual.
There you go.
But yeah,
that's the take of this year in video games.
Yeah, sorry, I've gone right off on one, haven't I?
so let's stick with 2017. And Chris Wickstead asks, "I want each of yours favourite film of the year." That's a hat trick. The hat trick of questions for Chris Wickstead. Great 2017 from him.
Yeah. Didn't he also? He just wanted to be mentioned on 3 shows, right? Didn't he tweet us that?
Well, then dreams really do come true.
I'm glad we had the power to grant you this wish.
Aim higher. Believe in yourself more.
Yeah.
Well, mine is Get Out by Jordan Peele, who wrote and directed it. And it is an outstanding film from top to bottom, really. It's funny, it's dramatic, it's got something to say, it's relevant, it's just go watch it. It's fucking great. I mean, we'd ask Steve Burns what his is, but I mean, all he talk about is Mob Wise. I don't think he's seen a film that's been made. Oh, well, he saw Star Wars, didn't he? That's probably the only one he's seen this year that came out this year. He's an awful person.
You see, I'm shit at watching films, right? I'm really bad. The most niche kind of thing I've seen this year is Baby Driver. Which I thought was
that's
fucking...
not very niche, is it?
Well, exactly. I mean, it's got fucking, it's full of fucking A-list actors and it's got an A-list fucking director at the head of it. But it's probably the closest that I've seen to, like, an indie film, I guess, or whatever. So yeah, I'm really bad. I don't know. I like, people talk about directors and I haven't got a fucking clue. So unfortunately, my favourite film of the year has been Thor Ragnarok, which is
well, I mean, that's getting rave reviews.
But I feel like because you're talking about a film that sounds like, really, from what you've told me as well, it sounds quite clever, and
it is, but it's not It's not a really kind of, it's not a 4-hour epic that, you sit there and ponder what it is to be human. It is a mainstream funny film with some great acting, and then just Trojan horses in there.
But my favourite film is straight off the fucking Marvel production line, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I feel like
such a
doesn't sound like it's straight off the Marvel production line in sense of its quality.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, they are. I guess they have done they've not followed through on it every time, but I think Disney have. Haven't they made some noises about hiring like more left field directors rather than?
But I mean, that paid off because he's a fucking great director.
Taika Waititi, we're talking about.
So good. Hunt for the Wilder People is
Hunt for the Wilder People.
So good.
That's one I have seen. It's an incredible film.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful film and a very touching film, but it's not schmaltzy. It's just it's fucking. But what it does do is it really showcases Taika's talent for balancing comedy with drama.
Yeah. But you saw Hidden Figures. That was a 2017 release in the UK, at least.
Was it 2017?
Yeah, that was early this. I think it came out
again. I could have sworn that was the end of 2016. I saw that. Hidden Figures was great. Yeah, really loved that. I think I like that we're getting. Unfortunately, it seems to be more of a side effect of we've spent so long talking incessantly about the same people and retelling the stories of like the white male figureheads of certain historical events and stuff, that the really kind of interesting stories about, for example, as with Hidden Figures, the black women who were responsible for the computations, the maths that they invented, the programming principles and procedures that they invented to solve these problems and keep people alive and make sure that they were actually able to calculate trajectories and bring people home and stuff like that. The work that these women did was like infinitely valuable, every bit as valuable as the contribution that Buzz Aldrin made or anyone else. Partly because, we as a culture, despite what happened in 2016 and 2017, I think generally as a culture, as a species, as a global society, we are getting more and more progressive. We are getting more and more kind of woke. But yeah, I think sadly a lot of it is a side effect of we're just getting to the stories that haven't been told now because we've been telling the same ones constantly. But it's a great thing that the story of these three women was told, and I'd never heard of them until I saw that film. I Googled them afterwards and looked into kind of the fact behind the fiction kind of thing, and yeah, it's a wonderful film, and it's one of those ones where it's not often with a film that you feel like it's actually good for, I guess it's actually good for society that this film was made, because it's a good thing that Thor Ragnarok was made, but it wasn't a good thing for the human race. Do you know what I mean?
Well, entertainment's important as well.
But Hidden Figures is one of those things where it's just we're finally recognizing the contributions of three people who belong to a demographic that is historically maligned and marginalized and just not listened to and ignored, and finally putting them at the forefront and telling their story against the backdrop of the civil rights movement. And
well, there you go, Jim. So you said you didn't like independent films, and all you liked was the guy with the big hammer, and then we just had a very eloquent description. So yeah, that's. But
I like
films.
Hammerman 3. That is. You
like what?
I like Hammerman 3 as well.
I thought you said Iron Man 3. I was going to say the fuck out. That film is bad.
It's weird with Thor though, isn't it? Because it's how often is the third film in a series the best one? Because Thor 1 and 2 are fucking shite, but Hammerman 3 is fucking brilliant. It's genuinely brilliant. I don't know why the Planet Hulk movie is called Thor Ragnarok, but
does he at any time say it's hammer time? Because they've really missed the trick, if not.
No, I don't think so.
Well, put that in Thor 4. James Ward, now moving on to television. What were your favourite TV shows of the year? So, Jim, I have finally sat down and watched all of Star Trek Discovery. And I'd put that up there as one of my favourites. It's certainly not brilliant, I don't think.
Yeah.
There's a lot wrong with it, but it is interesting, and I do like the characters, and I do want to know where it goes next.
Yeah.
There's more episodes in January, is it?
Yeah, so we've had the up to the season break, basically, I think. Which is good, because we've already had like 10 episodes.
Yeah, it's about 10 episodes, yeah.
Yeah, which is mad, because usually a season of anything now is like, what, fucking 8 episodes?
Well, I think that's about the right amount now.
Gone are the days when you had like 26 episodes a year of Deep Space Nine. But it was a different time, you know, you didn't have as much television then, and, you know, people just kind of wanted to watch the same shit all the time.
I don't need the same episode 25 times on loop. I mean, this is where I suppose it's kind of treading the line between old Star Trek and current TV, in terms of it's trying to keep it partly episodic in a sense, but also have an overarching narrative. How
did you feel about one of the charges against Discovery? One of the common ones is that it doesn't feel like Star Trek. And that's something I disagree with, because I
disagree with it as well. I think it's very Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's
lots of nods to the lore of old.
But more than that, I think it feels like 2017 Star Trek. Like it evokes Star Trek, but it has. I don't want the same shit with a different fucking uniform. Well, that's it. Yeah, this is it, isn't it? And like,
which I guess some people do.
Every time Star Trek has come back, every time Star Trek has happened, it's been completely different. Because like Next Gen, people were saying the same shit about Next Gen when it started as they were about this lot. Like, oh, it's not the same. It's not real Star Trek.
I read
it's
some
blah, blah, blah.
reviews that were saying that they felt it was too dark, which I certainly didn't think it was. I'd have gone more dark. I mean, if you're looking at the difference between that and say that the next generation, you know, made in the 90s, you know, the world was a good place in the 90s. The argument we'd be having was, are you Blur or Oasis? You know, we wouldn't have fucking fascism marching its way back and stuff.
That is actually quite. I mean, Star Trek is massively informed by the world that it.
Well, it should be. I mean, TV and video games and film and all art of any form should hold a mirror.
I mean, everything's a product of its time, right? Yeah. Maybe like Star Trek,
especially science fiction. Though, that's its fucking entire bag is holding a mirror up to the current times. But
a lot of people don't seem to understand that. It's like science fiction is inherently political. And if you're watching science fiction that isn't political, you're watching bad science fiction.
It's just fluff, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it got a lot of stick for bringing politics into Star Trek, which is like the
whole thing's about a fucking war. You can't have an intergalactic war without it being based on political decisions.
It's absolutely madness. It's like the idea that Star Trek was always like apolitical, where it's like. It was like
Star Trek's always been very political in a sense.
Martin Luther King convinced Nichelle Nichols to not quit the show because he felt that the civil rights movement benefited from having her in that role and being visible in that role.
Yeah.
You know, like we talk so much about, like, you know, the fact that they had a Russian character on the bridge, the fact that the fact that it was about a federation of not only just all the united peoples of Earth. You know, human beings were being treated as one creed rather than loads of desperate nations. But like the world that Gene Roddenberry was an asshole, and that, you know, don't get me wrong. In so many ways, he was an asshole. So like, I'm not fucking singing his praises too much, but like the world he came up with was very political, very much a reaction to the Cold War and to all the horrible stuff that had led to it, the Second World War, the rise of fascism and blah, blah, blah. Next Generation is... The 90s Star Trek is very positive, generally. It's
we had a question that we didn't actually get to. Sorry, I don't know who wrote it a few weeks ago, saying that... Basically asking if you could think of a TV show where essentially the government is good. Like, you know, like in the sense that the Federation, that like you don't distrust the people in power in the Next Generation, whereas in pretty much every other piece of fiction and reality, they're not really to be trusted. I think there's maybe an argument for that, but Next Gen kind of presents the Federation as a utopian society, but then Deep Space Nine comes along and goes, actually, it's not. So I guess kind of, but then it's kind of undermined by its sister show. So it
Yeah, it is. But also, you know, even in the first season, you've got that episode Conspiracy, which is literally about a conspiracy in the ranks of Starfleet and stuff. So what you often have in Star Trek is the conflict between the civilian government and the military. So it's often the civilian government is presented as the sort of, you know, the utopian ideal, utopia. And Starfleet is often run by dickheads. So you do have that. So I guess so. But, you know, talking about how things are kind of a product of their time, it's interesting to note that Star Trek The Next Generation kicks off right at the end of the Cold War, sort of 1987, 88. So, you know, and you remember when we had late 80s to sort of basically to 2001, we had that sort of golden period of our youth where the world wasn't dangerous. Well, I mean, it was. I mean, that's. I mean,
I understand you're saying that from a
it didn't feel dangerous, especially in the West.
British point of view.
The idea of there ever being a nuclear war felt like such an archaic notion that we'd never have to worry about that again, and it was. Yeah, you know, Next Gen was a product of that time where, you know, society was becoming more utopian, was becoming fairer, was becoming more liberal, particularly if you were white and straight.
Are these the first openly gay couple that we've seen on
Star Trek?
That are main characters.
Yeah, it's the first openly gay, it's first gay characters, I think.
Oh, is it?
At all, really, yeah.
I thought they had touched on that before now.
They have touched on it in Deep Space Nine.
Riker was shagging everything that moved. I don't think he cared if it was man, woman, alien, what.
Well, they had a really kind of, I mean, yeah, they had that episode with Deep Space Nine where, of Star Trek Next Generation, where Riker falls in love with a member of an agendered species, and it's really kind of ham-fisted. And I think the conversation on trans rights and stuff has moved on to such a point in 2017 that when you go back to that episode, it feels like Jesus Christ, like this is this is really actually quite bad. It's like when you watch Ace Ventura: Pet Detective now, and it's like it's actually
it's aged terribly, hasn't it?
Fucking, it's like it's.
I watched it the other day. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I was like, "This is a great film. This is a great film." And I watched it and I was like, oh shit, this is like,
my god.
There's lots of awful sentences in here.
You watch a lot of stuff from the 90s and it's like, Star Trek wasn't really at all like this, I don't think, but you watch a lot of stuff from the 90s and it was massively homophobic and massively transphobic. And it's like, fucking hell. Like it's
the number one way to make sure that your fucking show dates and you like a dickhead is to make the butt of the jokes
to be prejudiced
other people.
Yeah,
like when you do that, your show is guaranteed, no matter how long it takes, you are going to end up looking like the twat, because hopefully we are moving as slow as it feels at times in that right direction, whether it's to race or sex or transgender or homophobia or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, prejudice in any form, when it makes its way into media uncriticized, like not being the subject of a satire, not being
it's fine when Gervais does that stuff in The Office, because the butt of the joke is his ignorance in saying that, or Gareth's ignorance in saying, well, they shouldn't be allowed near animals then if they're gay and stuff like that, because the butt of the joke is that character's stupidity and ignorance about it. So that's fine. It's when the butt of the joke is another person.
But it's when it's the Alf Garnett kind of paradox, isn't it? They're like, you've got people liked Alf Garnett because they agreed with him, and they were the dickheads. But it's like
Stuart Lee's great piece about doing doing stand up about the Muslims, going, well, you never know who's in the audience, and they might come afterwards and congratulate you for going like that. Well done for sticking it to him. And it's like they might not get the levels of irony, and those type of people are the very butt of the joke that you are making.
Absolutely, yeah. But this is the thing. I mean, it's like people get very annoyed when people always like to point out the difference between like what a character says and what an author feels, and it's like, but sometimes characters are just analogues of the author. Sometimes
you can have your characters say awful things as long as
it's understood that they are, or as long as they're being presented as the moron or being challenged on it. Or,
exactly. Yeah, or, if they're just saying that and everyone's agreeing with them, then you're just a bad person.
But back in the 90s, there's a lot of stuff. If you watch a lot of old TV shows, not all of them, because as far as I'm aware, like, you know, things like Babylon 5, things like Star Trek. Funnily enough, a lot of the science fiction is like quite reasonably progressive. There's a lot of like stumbling blocks, like for example that episode of Next Generation mentioned.
I don't know the episode you're talking about in detail enough to talk about it, but like it's fine if it's like a, you know, what they were aiming for was the right goal, but it was really ham-fisted. It was really kind of poorly and clumsily done.
The problem
you could see what they were trying to do, but they didn't really have the language.
Yeah, I mean, the problem
that's different
as well,
to just being nasty.
Yeah, the problem with it, the particular episode, I can't remember what it's called, but it's just like a monogendered species that, but Riker meets and falls in love with a member of that species that feels female. And she expresses herself as female and wants to live as female. And I think I can barely remember the episode, but I think the resolution is that she basically gets kind of conditioned to have her kind of gender identity erased or whatever. And it's a bit ham-fisted, and it's like, but the thing is, it's really kind of, and it really blows your mind that it's taken up until sort of, you know, the second decade of the 21st century for the trans community to just start to be counted, people. You know, treated as human beings.
I mean, we barely got to treating women characters like people.
But it boggles the mind, because it's like, you know, because trans people have been around for forever, you know, and gender has been, it's not a new thing that gender identity is fluid, and that, you know, that sexuality, sex and gender being like distinct things, and those things have been just constants in the human race for the length of time that there has been a human race. But it's only now that we're actually starting to really kind of appreciate it and not kind of treat people who don't fall into very narrow categories as if they're kind of, you know, monstrous or abnormal. But yeah, but you know, and it's mad. The 90s wasn't that long ago. It really wasn't that long ago. And even back then, the conversation on it, you just have to watch that episode of TNG or watch fucking Ace Ventura: Pet Detective to know that.
Yeah, Pet Detective really shocked me, because I remember really
Friends as well. Friends had massively transphobic jokes in it. Stuff that just they wouldn't get away with now. Well, they probably wouldn't want to get away with it now, because like the people who wrote those jokes, I can't imagine that they would now defend them. You know, a lot we all kind of, conversations move on and attitudes change, and you look back at things that you used to come out with, like when I was in my early 20s, like especially in my friend group, like something being gay was like, you know, you would say it was like, oh man, that's gay. If it was rubbish, you know, yeah, it's a bit, you know, like that was a thing. And then we all kind of grew up a little bit and thought, Christ, we can't, that's really shitty, you know. We had gay people in our friend group and we were still doing it, you know, and it never once occurred that actually you're dehumanizing someone. You know, you're actually, you know, though that person hasn't complained because they're so used to it. And even their friends.
Well, that's it, when it's entrenched so much.
No, it's entrenched, and like, you know, it's like, yeah, they know you don't mean it in a kind of nasty way, but you're still doing it. You're still denying them basic dignity. You're still taking their humanity for granted. And it's, you know, but people grow up and people move on, and hopefully society does as well. But like, yeah, I mean, I can't even remember how we got on.
We got onto this through Star Trek Discovery.
But I guess the point is
this is the point of science fiction, and the point of good television and good.
I think to look it back, you know, we were talking about how like every Star Trek is a product of its time, as it should be, as it is, and you know, this is very different to 60s Star Trek. It's very different to 90s Star Trek, obviously. And it's mercifully, thank fuck, very different to early 2000s Star Trek. And it's very different to the Abrams films as well. It's completely different tonally. And I don't mind the Abrams films. I really like the third one.
They're fun, aren't they?
They're fun.
They're different too.
They're a bit throwaway, I think, is what the problem with them.
Yeah.
But no, Discovery feels like it's a proper It feels like Star Trek is back. It feels like it is now a product of our time, you know, and that's...
Well, good, that makes it relevant, and that's exactly what it should be.
Sorry, I talk a load of shit.
No, that wasn't a load of shit at all. That was interesting, Jim. I'll tell you what else I've actually watched. Have you seen any of Mindhunter on Netflix? Which is about the FBI agents who are establishing criminal profiling. Don't fucking tell me you don't think it's good, Jim.
You might be upset with me, but I watched about 20 minutes of it and stopped. Not because of any value judgment about the show, just because I was in the middle of something else.
Well, whatever it was, Jim, it was a waste of time.
You was probably masturbating, I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely fine, but I just do it as a different time when you're not watching something about serial killers. Stop masturbating to serial killers. How many times do we have to have this conversation, Jim?
It wasn't...
Good God.
I was probably writing an email or something.
The FBI agent is the inspiration for Jack Crawford's character in Silence of the Lambs, and they go on to Jeffrey Dahmer and all these really interesting serial killers. And the performances are brilliant, and it's fucking great. And it's David Fincher who directs some of the episodes. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what more could you possibly want?
Yeah.
Another one is Manhunt Unabomber, which I think has just come out on Netflix. I've certainly just started watching on Netflix anyway. Not got all the way through it. Similar in some senses, kind of vein to that. I'm obsessed with that profiling of killers or bombers or whatever. Sam Worthington's amazing in it. Have you seen any of that?
No.
Well, put that on your list as well. Yeah, you've got so much great TV to watch, Jim.
Yeah, I've not even seen fucking Narcos either, not properly. So.
No, I mean, there is loads though, isn't there? I still haven't seen The Handmaid's Tale. I've read Margaret Atwood's book. I really like that.
Yeah,
that's getting rave reviews. Still haven't seen the third season of Twin Peaks. One of my favourite TV shows of all time. I really want to watch the first two again before I get into the third one. Top of the Lake, China Girl. Mm-hmm. Haven't seen that. First season of that was very good. You've obviously seen Game of Thrones season 7.
Yeah. Game of Thrones now. Game of Thrones has just got to the point where you're just watching it because you've come this far.
Is it? But I thought everyone was raving about this season being.
Well, it is good, but it's like I don't think it's anywhere near as good as it was when it started off. Like,
really?
I think it's like there's an argument that. You've heard of the Zombie Simpsons argument? That like after a certain point, the Simpsons becomes just the reanimated corpse of the Simpsons. Mm-hmm. Rather than actual Simpsons. So there's like a distinct point where it stops being The Simpsons and becomes a different show, essentially. That's kind of happened with Game of Thrones. Not to the same extent where like there was a point where it went from good to shit. It's just there was a point where it became a different show.
Well, is it almost like paint by numbers, just doing the same tropes? That's the problem?
No, I think it kind of came to the point where it stopped adapting material and started becoming original.
Okay.
So like there's and you know, and I think we all knew this would happen when at the point where the show would overtake where the books were. Mm-hmm. So for a while it was really smart, and it was all about the intrigue, and it had the pace of a novel, right? And it was much more kind of character focused than it was on, like there were bits, for example, in Game of Thrones where you would hear about a battle happening off screen. You didn't actually see that much kind of battering going on, right? And when it did happen, it was really fucking significant. It was like, oh Christ, we don't usually see this, you know. It was very, very dependent on dialogue. It was very dependent on the idea that it trusted the audience to actually hear people saying things and referring to events that they hadn't necessarily seen, right? And then at some point, after it had overtaken where the books were and started having to make its own kind of shit up, it started to feel like a much more Hollywood production. I don't feel like it was less well made, less well written, less intelligent. It was just different. Like the tenor of it had shifted. We were this really impeccable commentary on, you know, the Wars of the Roses and stuff like that. But now we are just full on fucking fantasy. I guess it kind of became it was a subverted fantasy. And then it just became fucking. It's like it was a subverted satire of Lord of the Rings, and then by the end it's just become Lord of the Rings. It's sort of become the thing that it was previously a reaction to.
Okay.
I guess that's probably the best way to put it. Not that it's gotten bad, but it's definitely not, like, I think if you watched season 1 and loved it, fell into a coma for 8 years and then came back and watched what the show turned into, you'd be like, what the fuck happened?
Okay. Well, that kind of wraps up TV and film and video games.
Fucking hell, this record's getting a bit long, isn't it?
But I mean, that was the highlights of 2017, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think we should wrap it up there, really. We've been whittering on for fucking ages. So very quickly then.
Christmas
Christmas movies, go. I mean, this is from Sam Kay, the elderly goose.
I mean, obviously, Die Hard. Fuck's sake, let's get it out.
Yeah, well, that's a given. Home Alone is a given.
Home Alone is a fucking incredible Christmas movie.
Elf.
I've never seen Elf. I might
really
remedy that this year.
Give it a watch. It's a Wonderful Life.
Christmas movie. It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah.
Bad Santa is a good one.
Yeah.
I really want to watch the Christmas Horror Story with William Shatner in it. I think I'm going to because I've seen all the Christmas films, the famous ones. So what I'm going to do is sit down and I think I'm going to get into a B-movie horror niche of shit Christmas-themed horror films. Krampus is supposed to be good. I've not seen that. Yeah.
And of course, there's the Nightmare Before Christmas, which everyone's like, is it a Halloween movie or is it a Christmas movie?
It's definitely a Christmas film, I think.
It's, but is it or is it? But it's both, isn't it, really? Yeah, fuck me. I mean, that's one of my favourites, Nightmare Before Christmas. Just, obviously, anything that turns something on its head is always wonderful.
It's only an hour and 16 minutes to get watched. That's shorter than this fucking podcast of this, Ray.
It would be. Yeah. I don't really... Oh, it's weird. I can never remember stuff. I'm bad at remembering stuff. Which is really bad when you do a podcast, because the entire process of doing a podcast is remembering stuff. But what I did want to say is that obviously wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, and we've had a great year. At Jim and Burns and Dave, we've not been, like, it's weird because sometimes it looks like we're not being very active. But actually, when we publish like loads of podcasts in a row without a break, and when we publish loads of YouTube videos in a row without a break, that's actually when we're at our least active, because we're only able
with the production.
Yeah, because like we're only able to do that when we're kind of between jobs on the production company. Well, not between jobs, but when things are quieter, like when things are in a pre-production stage, or so there's like. The weird thing about running a production company I found is that there's a lot of downtime, and then there's like massive bursts of like fuck, loads of activity, 18-hour days, blah blah blah, and then it stops once you deliver something, and then you're back to kind of planning stages and things where you're spending a lot of time just kind of thinking, and so it's a strange old life. It's like there's a lot of hard work. But it is balanced out by this like periods of not hard work.
Periods of you playing Zelda for 30 hours a day.
Yeah, it's fucking great actually. Do you know what I mean?
I actually had the best job I ever had last week, which was I had to record some footage from The Last of Us. So
your favourite game,
The
right?
Last of Us. Yeah. That was when I thought this was the right choice.
I'm glad you
had the nan-nos and decided to start a company.
But that is your actual favourite game, right? Yeah. The Last of Us. So like when
it's
I came...
what Steve Burns called an 11 out of 10 best game ever made. It's literally word for word what he said.
So when I came to you the other week and said, listen, Dave, I need you to capture about 10 hours of footage from The Last of Us.
Yeah, it was great. I did my normal day's work, and then I did an inverted commas day work where I just played The Last of Us.
It's brilliant, isn't it, as well? Sunrise. Because like when you're doing that, when you're playing a video game and it is actually for your job, it's the best excuse as well when you get moaned at by your partner or whatever.
Fuck off! Like, I'm at work.
It's like I'm working. Well, I want to watch this.
It's not going to capture itself, is it?
I want to watch Bake Off
because that's obviously the first time I've ever done it. Like that was a total treat for me. Was you like, all right, capturing stuff? I was like, I'll capture all of our games.
I mean, it wears a bit thin after the fucking 400th time, but like there was. I remember, from ages ago, when early days of Video Gamer, where I had to play something, and I remember Rachel was like, I want to watch Bake Off. I'm like, you've got an iPad. I mean, I'm not seeing what the issue is here. It's a strange life, and it's very rewarding. But basically, we've had a great year. I think we'll all agree on that. You know, everyone had a great year, and thus we're furious. But, you know, at the beginning, there were a lot of people who were asking about us doing Patreons and stuff like that, and Kickstarters, and wondered if we were going to try and be sort of funded in that way. And we've never ruled it out completely. There might be like certain projects we might want to do, we might want to crowdfund in the future, but it's not in like our immediate future that we're thinking of it. So with that in mind, I was going to think, we're obviously not celebrities by any measure, but we're just about well known enough that a lot of people are, you know, think highly enough of us that they have asked if there's any avenue where they can fund us doing stuff. Like, you know, can I give you £5 a month to make Let's Plays? Can I do this? You know, we got asked that a lot. So I guess what I think, because we now live in demonstrably like really shitty times, and I think the only way that we're going to get out of them is for decent people to make acts of kindness. I think if you ever had it in your mind that you wanted to give us a £5 to make a YouTube video, give the £5 to Shelter instead that you would have given to us, you know?
Absolutely.
Do that.
A little bit of Christmas goodwill.
Yeah, because you know, things are shitty at the moment, and they will get better. In the meantime, people need a lot of people out there need help. A lot of people out there could really do with that £5 a lot more than we would. So yeah, just wanted to say that, really.
And he's been reading that word for word from an email from Stephen Burns. Gone full power with his face turned full of the Christmas. He sent us a wonderful picture of him in a Christmas elf jumper as well. He really is full of the joys of Christmas.
Excuse me, can I just point out that was not from Steve Burns?
Absolutely not a single word of that. That's all from the heart of the beautiful Jamie Trinket.
Yeah, and he's absolutely right. I want the fucking credit for it.
So £5, please, to a charity of your choice. Definitely Shelter is a good one. And if you got another £5, stick an envelope to Jim, because it's all about fucking him, innit? Thank you for listening once again to Jim Dave. We hope you have a great Christmas, and we'll see you in 2018 for more lols and that, innit?
Thank you very much. Bye.